Hello everybody, this is Diane, and I am ready to show you the Holly Hobbie journals that I've been working on. I have 4 different journals, and each one was created in a different way. These two are very similar because they were made with hardcover books with the spine that I always make and sewn-in signatures, but they're different in a way that I'll show you in a minute. I have done several videos leading up to this flip through, so if you're interested in the process for any of these journals, just look ahead to the previous videos. So I have the 4 journals to show you. And I also have 3 little packets of some leftover playing cards and postcards and greeting cards and things like that that I can show you that I will be putting in my shop. Let's do those first in case you don't want to hang around for all of the flip throughs. I'll just quickly do these. They're all the same. There are 19 playing cards, and I just dropped a button on the floor. Here it is. 19 playing cards. I had a lot of this. I think I bought a deck of this deck at a flea market, so I hadn't put them in my shop. All the other ones I got on eBay, and I had sold a lot of them in sets back when I bought them. So anyway, there are like 6 of these little blue ones and 2 of the pink ones that go with it and 2 of this blue card, 2 of this pink one, 1 of this patchwork one. I had varying amounts of each of the styles. 1 of this one, which is one of my favorites. 2 of this darling little boy, 1 of this very traditional Holly Hobbie image, and then 2 more with the patchwork. They were in a set with this one. So that's 19 cards. I'm giving you 2 of the Holly Hobbie buttons, which I believe I received from Jeannie, and a Holly Hobbie postcard and Christmas card. And then I decided to just add in one of these Bonnet Girl. She's not Holly Hobbie, but she's very sweet, and I figured, and there's a scripture verse in there. I figured if you like Holly Hobbie, you would probably like these. So these are different in each of the 3 sets, but there will be a card from this set and a card from a Hummel set. And actually it's not Hummel, it's Annalise, but they look very much like Hummel. So that's what these little bundles are that will be in the shop. Now let's get to the journals. Oops, sorry. Let's start with the little ones first. This one is 4 3/4 by 7 3/4. It was created with this little book cover called Sunny Thoughts with designs by Holly Hobbie. And I left a lot of the phrases in the book. Anything that didn't really need, if it was complete on one page, or it could be complete on one page, I left it. Others were just partial phrases, and I covered them up, as you'll see. There's this adorable little bunny on the back, also a Holly Hobbie illustration. And what did I need to cover? Oh, there was a sticky, where a sticker had been back here, and it just left a sticky mess. So I just did some collages, just because I had to cover this spot. So I did collages other places. There's some chenille, plissé. This is vintage, and this is a vintage sheet. So all this fabric on this side is vintage, and this side also. It's got a plaid, pink and white plaid paper wrapped around the edge of the book page to cover up the raw edge where I took it from the spine. This is the original end paper, which is really beautiful, and I added a printable book plate. I have a few extra playing cards that didn't get put into the book, so I'm just going to put them in a little vellum bag or something to include. Oh, this one's a tally card and 3, but for now I didn't want to forget to put them with the book, so I just paper clipped them. And this was the first page of the book. To blank, who always brings sunny thoughts to mind. So you could write your name here or here, whatever you want to do. You could cover this part up. It's all up to you. But this is more like a notebook. It doesn't have a lot of decoration, and there's a lot of room for writing. There's a little printable ticket here with a couple of tags that I cut out with my Cricut. And this one is a lot different in many ways from the other journals because it's wire bound, and also the color palette is a lot different. I'm sorry. This one is pink and blue pastels, and the other ones are browns and with some blues. Here is one of the pages I covered up the quote, and I covered it with a pink guest check, a little scrap of scrapbook paper, and a piece of wrapping paper with Holly Hobbie. And there's a beautiful illustration on the back. There's some scrapbook paper, and I punched the corners. This is from a penmanship book, and it's vintage. I have it right here. It's this Spencerian System of Penmanship. I don't know the date, but you can see it's old. So I just put one of the pages in here. This is from the Holly Hobbie Bridge pad, although it doesn't have Holly Hobbie on the page. She was just on the cover, but I did include that page in there. I think I have a few in here. This is another Holly Hobbie illustration. It says, "Have a little fun." There's a playing card that I just bound in. Some more scrapbook paper, some stamping. This is an image from, it was supposed to be a decoupage. I received this, this and a lot of the other items from Pamela. And she sent me a bunch of these pages of Holly Hobbie images that were to be used for decoupage. I covered up the quote here. There's some wrapping paper with Holly Hobbie images. This is a Holly Hobbie greeting card, or note card. It's just blank inside. It does open like this, so you could glue it here and make it into a pocket if you wanted to, on both front and back. But you can use folded things in the Bind It All. You can see I just punched through all 4 layers at once. Usually it would be 2 layers, but this one was double folded. And you just put it in. This is from the title page of one of the other books, Holly Hobbie books that I used. I put some washi tape here. Look at this adorable image. I kind of think that the pictures in this book might have been created more recently than the Holly Hobbie from the 70s. I'm not sure when these illustrations were made, but they just seem of a little bit different style. Maybe it's just because of the colors. There's some journaling spot there, little playing card. This is one of the flyleaf pages, and it has this cute little hat illustration. I had to cut the Christmas card that I put in all the other journals. I had to cut it into more like a postcard and trim it so it would fit into this journal. And there's an envelope here with a little embellishment that I made, and inside the envelope is a playing card and a scrap of the paper that you can write on. And then I put a piece of this pink and blue fabric, and this was also from Jeannie. Unfortunately, I couldn't use this in the other journals because the colors just didn't go, but I did get to use it in this one. And I put some pink gingham and a vintage bow applique on it. Some more stamping, some handmade paper. Here's a postcard with a little girl getting her mail out of the mailbox. I made a little pocket here, and this little piece here is the end, one of the end pieces of a Holly Hobbie Colorform box. It's probably from the 70s, and I got that from Pamela too. She sent me, I don't think she sent me the box. I think maybe she sent me the lid and then these pieces. I did a little applique of lace, and this is a tag that I had made in a Stashistry video, I believe. It's got some coffee dyed tracing paper on it. You can hear it crinkling. There's a little note card here, so cute. more of that fabric, and it's on a pocket with a scrap of paper that you can write on. And there's another one of the postcards with the girl at the mailbox tucked in there. Look at that beautiful illustration of the bird. Music, ledger lines. Start each day on a happy note and plan to make the most of every moment. That's a good reminder. More wrapping paper. Yeah, this is the picture that's on the front. That cute little duck. And then on the back is a library pocket. It was a vintage one, and I covered it with scrapbook paper and added that cute little playing card and put in a blue library card, and my signature is on that. So this is the Sunny Thoughts Holly Hobbie journal. Then we will move on to the fabric covered one. It's actually, the base of it is a piece of cardstock, and I covered it with this beautiful patchwork looking fabric that Pamela sent me, and it looks like the Holly Hobbie colors for sure, although I don't know if it was a licensed Holly Hobbie fabric, but it looks like it could have been. And then I used this vintage eyelet with the ribbon thread through. I put that ribbon in there to match the colors here. And then this was cut from one of the books that I have, and I just attached her to some cardstock and then attached her to the cover. It's tied with a gold colored sheer ribbon and the pretty teal fabric on the inside. And then for the pockets on the front and the back, I cut little pieces of this vintage patchwork and made them into the pockets. Here is the double folded note card. And then I tucked in the extra playing cards that I didn't put into the pockets in this book. I just tucked them in there. You can do what you want with them. On the front page of each signature, I cut out a Holly Hobbie image from a book or, well, this book only has one signature. So anyway, this is cut from a book and attached to cardstock just like I did on the front. And it is glued down as a tuck spot, and here's one of those tags that I made. This is a page from a large Holly Hobbie book that this is actually mine from 1979, and Pamela sent me another book just like it, so I kept hers because mine was falling apart. So I used the pages from mine in this journal. I just love these illustrations. This is a different wrapping paper, and I put on these labels that I stamped and cut out of various papers. This is a little embellishment that I made with my Big Shot. I cut the jar shape out of cardstock and fabric and glued it together, wrapped the little string around it, and this label came with the die, which I'm not sure where the die came from. I'm going to have to glue the, apply this to coffee dyed paper. I forgot to do that, but it's just a little notebook paper, printable, that you can write on, and a Holly Hobbie tally card. I'll try to go a little more quickly. There's a playing card on this flap, and this is from the Holly Hobbie Happy Day book, which you will see upcoming as a journal. I just edge punched the coffee dyed paper and stamped up there. Here's the Christmas card. There's a fabric flip. This was actually part of the bodice of a Holly Hobbie stuffed doll dress, and this is the neckline with the binding. I just left that on there. And a little piece of Holly Hobbie stationery. This is from the large book again. And I just made a pocket with leftovers and a doily. This is a decoupage image and a tally card. Like I said, I got the tally cards and most of the playing cards from eBay. It's not that easy to find Holly Hobbie stuff. Oh, I need to glue that envelope. That's an envelope that came with the Holly Hobbie stationery. And this is a little, I had just this little snippet of gift wrap that had some Holly Hobbie images, and I cut this one out and just glued it to a scrap of paper to put in there. So I have two things I need to do in this book. Here's a little fabric snippet here. I cut these shapes out with my Big Shot, and you'll see some of these in the larger books too. And I stitched a playing card to it and then put it on as a tuck spot. This is just an index card with a little strip of fabric pleated on it and stitched to it. And this is just a printable. I made these pockets in a Somerset inspired video, so I used several of them throughout these journals, and then I made tags that would fit in them. This is a printable little card that you can write on, that I glued on as a pocket, and it has a little note card that came with this gift wrap and a playing card. I'm saying playing card. It might sound like I'm saying plain card. That's what it sounds like to me. And on the back pocket, or on the back page, I just took a strip, cut off strip of paper. It has the doily design on it. And just folded it in a trifold and glued it on as a pocket. There's a little printable flower card in there with a fabric tab. And I just glued on a couple things you can write on here. And on the back pocket, in the back pocket, is another long and narrow card. So this is a beautiful little book. I love this. I love the colors. So this one is Fabric Holly Hobbie Journal. Next we have a hardbound book, but it was just a plain green color, and I Mod Podged gift wrap on it, Hallmark or American Greetings gift wrap. I made this little frame with my Big Shot and these two dies. I put them together and ran it through, and it cut out this shape. I stamped a wood grain stamp on it to give it some texture, and then added this embellishment. Put some corners so that the wrapping paper wouldn't wear off the corners. A brown gingham or calico fabric for the spine, and then some vintage rickrack. And just a little tassel with ribbons and fibers. Put some scrapbook paper in here and just a plain coffee dyed muslin on the inside. And here is another one of the cutouts from the book that I glued to cardstock. And a piece of eyelet. I used eyelets on the eyelet fabrics on eyelet. Oh my goodness, eyelet trims on the edges of the pages. Phew! And I put this pretty blue and white ribbon on there. And there's my tag with the big bow. I only put one in each book because they would really bulk it up if I put one in each signature. There is one of the book pages, music paper, the wrapping paper, and again I added the stamped journaling spots. Fabric flip with some chenille. This is, you'll see the little girl on the other side, but this is a huge bonnet. It was a little piece of stationery. Look at this design on the coffee dyed paper from a plastic placemat that I got from Amazon. There's another one of the jars and a playing card. I can go through these more quickly now because you're familiar with pretty much all the elements that I used. There's another piece of that other wrapping paper. That's why I didn't put that card in, because I just glued it. Didn't want it to get glued in. There we go. And it has a little embossed emblem there. And it's just a little collage on the back of it. There's a fabric cluster, one of those shapes that I cut out, and a playing card, or a greeting card, note card. Here's the little paper with the girl with the huge bonnet. You can see just her cheek right there. Here's another one of those pockets that I made with a tag that I created to fit inside. There's an embellishment that I had made some time ago with a genuine milk carton label on it. This is just a copy of a printable corner, like a bookmark, a corner bookmark from a children's activity book, a really old one. This is another of the decoupage images, and it is a little girl on a rocking horse, and look at all the toys, and a tally card. I just made this little tuck spot with a printable glued onto some wood grained patterned paper, and another decoupage image, and then one of the trifolds. I like this pretty green, mint green lace. And the second signature has this adorable boy with his black cat and a stamped image up there, and a printable of a grocery receipt. Now this is from the box of color forms. I had the end piece on in the other journal. I glued her, I peeled off several layers of the cardboard. She is, you can see creases in it. It's vintage, it's from the 70s. And I glued her to cardstock, so you can journal on that. This is the only journal that she would fit in because it's the tallest journal that I made. So she goes in that pocket. Isn't she sweet? There's some vintage lace here and another postcard. And another little note card. A get well wish from your secret pal. You could cover that up with a label or something if you wanted to. The stationery with Holly Hobbie. Another little jar. And another envelope with just leftover paper. Whoops, opens this way, that you can journal on. And a collage. There's a little cluster with a vintage, no, I don't think that one's vintage, a fabric yo-yo. And this one is an adorable little note card. It opens up, so there's lots of journaling space here. And here's another piece of the color form box. There is a piece of fabric behind it, and a little playing card tucks in there. And on the gift wrap, I put on one of the smaller top note shapes that I cut out with my Big Shot. It's this kind of a shape, but it's solid instead of a frame, obviously. And someone sent me this heart that was cut from a handmade paper, and I thought that was perfect for this journal. So they just went together to form a little pocket, and it's got a tally card inside. So there's lots of Holly Hobbie images in here, and still lots of space for writing. There are many pockets and tuck spots. It does go in there. And the third signature has this little girl that's washing dishes or getting ready to, and just a cardstock scrap. There's a postcard tucked into that envelope. and a little cluster with a piece of chenille. This one is a longer tag because the page was longer. And I made a little tuck spot with a scrap of scrapbook paper, a doily, and a printable. And this is a larger image from the decoupage images. So I just folded it and tucked it in there. You can write on the back of it. Now this was supposed to be the tag that would fit in behind this, except that I glued this side and left this side open, so I don't want to put the tag over here because I'd have to put it in this way, and it's too close to the binding. So this is just a writing spot here, not a tuck spot. And so you didn't lose out on your journaling card. I just put it here, and this is the one. It's another part of the bodice of that little doll dress, and it had the button at the top, so I left that on. And then a library pocket at the back. This one's a new library pocket. I do carry these in my shop, pockets with cards. And I have a few left. So I will tie seam binding or ribbon or something around these. This one is just a little, it pops up just a little, but not too bad. I've seen worse. And then lastly, this one is called Holly Hobbie's Happy Day Book. I love this one. It's more square. It's about, I didn't give you the measurements for this one, I'm sorry. This one is 6 1/4, thereabouts, by 9 1/2. And this one is 8 by 8 1/4. I love the picture on the front. I created a little collage here. It's got one of the yo-yos and a button. I cut the shank off the button with my wire cutters, and there's a little piece of the Holly Hobbie doll dress and some vintage lace. I'm just going to glue that a little more securely because I didn't get enough glue on this edge. This is a fabric that was, sorry, the lighting's not great. I say that every time, I think. This was from the ruffle of the sleeve on this dress. And there's just a little piece of fabric behind it. And it has this pretty patchwork fabric that I used on the cover for the fabric journal. And another little tassel kind of thing. Vintage rickrack and book corners because the corners were soft. This is scrapbook paper on the inside. I wrapped some of the fabric pieces from the front through to the inside, and I added this label to write your name. I love this image of the girl picking wildflowers. It is such a beautiful image. Since the book was wide, I had to sew pieces together to make pages big enough. And on this eyelet I sewed a little green gingham ribbon, and there's one of my big bow tags. I love the birds that she does. This was from the cover of a scribble pad. I was going to put it in as a page, but I had more pages than I needed, so I just cut it, trimmed it to just include the image, and just folded it up and tucked it in. There's another envelope with, oh, I guess it got glued. And a pretty fabric cluster there. This opens up, it's a card. Look at this little girl in the rocking chair with her doll. Got a doll and a teddy bear. She looks sleepy. This was a button. It's fabric fused to some cardstock that I received from somebody. She has an Etsy shop, and I don't know if she sells these. She was experimenting when she sent them to me, but she sells a lot of the fabric ribbons, the fabrics that you cut into strips. She has a lot of beautiful ones. There is a crayon mark on this page right here, which I didn't even notice till I was sewing the book together, because it's just on their clothes and it doesn't go onto the white part, so I didn't even notice it. That's I think part of a Christmas card. I got it with the decoupage stuff, but it's on heavier paper than the decoupage paper. Here is the flip. There's a flower card in there. So this is one of the decoupage images that I cut out and used as a tuck spot. All the other ones that I did that with were from my books. This is just a Rolodex card that I had collaged on, stamped and collaged on earlier. I just pulled it out of my stash and tucked it in that envelope. And that is a vintage, like antique, calling card. This is the back side of it, because the front side, the piece that is loose, that lifts up so you can see the name, that part was torn off. So I just stamped on it. And I use that in here. And there's another little cluster. There's a color form box part and a couple of plain cards. This is a circle cut from wallpaper and a heart cut from corrugated cardboard that was, I think it was just white paint. I don't think it's gesso. Cali card and a playing card. Again, there's a pocket made with a scrap of scrapbook paper and some vintage lace and a printable journaling spot, and this is a decoupage image. There's that. There's a flower card in there, and then I love this one also. This is a printable. This is a Thanksgiving card, so you could cover that up with something if you wanted to. This is a little piece of that sleeve ruffle from the dress, the doll dress. So you have, if you have pieces of the doll dress, you have authentic Holly Hobbie fabrics in here. She's on that greeting card that I love. I don't know what there is about. I love her face, her sweet face, and I love her patchwork umbrella. I guess I do know what I love about it. And I love this one too, of course, a little girl playing the piano. It's a player piano. You can see the piano roll in there. But she's, I guess you can play a player piano without using the roll. You can just play it with the keys. Anyway, there's that little paper that's tucked into the envelope. But she's using the feet to move the roll too, so maybe she's just pretending to play the piano. There's a family eating their dinner. Reminiscent of Norman Rockwell, I think this picture is. Look at those children dancing. Now this one was bound into a book with a bind it all. Must be it went that way. And I don't know why I took the book apart or something, but I put this tag in here. And here we have just a printable, looks like a really old book page. Got coffee dyed paper behind it, and I just tucked it in the flap of this envelope. I didn't put on all the other back pages, I put these things, but I didn't want to put it on this one because I didn't want to cover this. I loved that, and it's ledger lines here, so I just put an envelope there, and then there's a card, the card that actually came in the envelope. It's that one with the little girl at the desk, and a piece of that wrapping paper. There were 3 images on that little scrap of wrapping paper that I had. And this is the actual library card from this book, Holly Hobbie's Happy Day book, and the first date is 1983, and the last date that I can see is 1990. And I actually cut this image out of one of the playing cards because I needed something small to go on here, and I had lots of that blue playing card, so I cut that one out and glued it on. And I will wrap this also with a ribbon or seam binding or something. So, let me just tell you, you will see, they will all be listed separately, so you will see the pictures on the listings, but I will tell you the names of them anyway. This one is Sunny Thoughts Holly Hobbie Journal. This one is Fabric Covered Holly Hobbie Journal. Holly Hobbie's Happy Day Book Journal. And I don't know what I'll call this one. Friendship, I guess. Because 2 little friends, and it looks like she's giving her a pot of pansies. So this is Friendship Holly Hobbie Journal. So thank you so much for, if you've watched the videos that led up to the flip through, I really appreciate you watching and commenting, and I know many of you were anticipating these journals because you loved Holly Hobbie as much as I did and still do. So I thank you for watching those videos. Thank you for watching this video, and come on over to my shop where you will find these journals and these little packs of leftover cards. I will link the shop in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Have a creative day. Bye-bye.